Hey guys, welcome back for video number 2 of chapter 12, still dealing with FDR and the New Deal. So as always, to start things off, my absolutely amazing jokes. So this one, I was wondering if you guys know how much a pirate pays for corn. And the answer, a buccaneer. So as always, take a couple of minutes, laugh it off. Not a funny joke, but that's all I could come up with today. But now we're going to get back to U.S. history. So today the focus, again, is going to be on FDR and really what his new plans are going to be with the first New Deal to try to help the American people get back to work and really help them out during the Great Depression. So last time when we talked about how he got so famous and how he kind of rose in politics, but now he's the president. And one time, I guess last time we talked about how it was kind of a bad thing, how he had to sit and wait 5 months. But it's almost, thinking about it now, it's almost like a blessing in disguise because he gets to sit back and see all the things that are going wrong and what he can do to try to fix them. And President Hoover, again, we blame him for the Great Depression, but he had a tough spot. The Great Depression happened while he is in office, and he is just forced to act right away. While FDR, he gets to kind of sit back, come up with some policies and figure out ways how he's going to help the economy. So first thing he's going to try to do is help the banks. And as we know, the bank failures was one of the biggest reasons as to why the Great Depression began. Again, people were spending tons and tons of money on things that they didn't need. They were getting loans, and all of a sudden, all these people went to the bank at once to try to get it back. No money is going to be there. So FDR, the following morning after his inauguration, he declares what is known as a bank holiday. And a bank holiday, what that is, it's like the same thing as when we don't have school. The banks, they're just going to close. And he does this. He tells all the banks and he tells the governors to make sure that bank holidays are done, really just to establish some ground rules, to establish some new laws that they're going to try to come up with for the country. But really, he wants people to stop going to the banks. Again, when all these people go there, that's when the bank is going to close. And he tells people, or he tells these banks, close, declare bank holiday, I will tell you when to reopen. And it's kind of strange because people don't necessarily like when the government tells people what to do, especially open or close your business, but they listen to this. And it worked out for them, and we'll see why in a couple of minutes here. But after this was done, after he declared a bank holiday, FDR goes to his advisors and he says, I want a law changing our banking system done within the next 5 days. So I said that Roosevelt was kind of patient in a lot of ways, but when he wanted something done, he did not wait. He gave him like a 5-day window, and if you did not get it done, you're out, you're fired. But he wants to make sure that things are going to change. So Congress, soon after the bank holiday, they passed the Emergency Banking Act. And really just to show how important and how influential this was, this only took 38 minutes to debate on the Senate and the House floor. Most of the time when there is a law, in the federal level, they are going to debate it, they are going to talk about it, they are going to bring in all these different charts and explain their belief on it. It only takes 38 minutes. And after those 38 minutes, that is when it passes. And really what this does is banks are going to be given surveys which are going to be conducted by the Treasury Department in order to keep operational. So basically, they have to give a survey, they have to answer the questions on the survey, and depending on how they answer it will be dependent on if they can keep their doors open and whether or not they will get government relief. And again, here is government kind of sticking its nose into private businesses, but hey, this was a time where we needed action. And FDR, he realizes that. So he is not going to allow these banks that are being corrupt really to just keep their doors open. And this whole policy, this whole plan, Roosevelt tells the American people in what's called a fireside chat. And the fireside chat is pretty similar to what I'm doing right now. Here I got my microphone. I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm talking. He would just sit at his desk, there'd be a microphone, and he would tell people what his plans were going to be. Just like today, the president can give a speech and it will be on every TV station. It will be all over the place. This kind of started with President Roosevelt and what he called the fireside chat. So he wasn't just done after the first Emergency Banking Relief Act. He is going to do a couple of other things to regulate banking and regulate the stock market. And one thing that gets a little bit confusing about the New Deal is it's basically just law after law after law. And they go by different symbols, the SEC, the FDIC, the CCC, the PWA. I know that's a lot that I just threw out there, but these are just acronyms that are going to be used. So the next step that they do, they create what's known as the Securities Act. And what this does, it requires companies that want to sell stocks and bonds, they have to provide truthful information. Duh. Doesn't this just seem like a no-brainer? If you were going to try to sell something, stocks or bonds or anything, as a company, you should tell the truth. As a person, you should always tell the truth. But unfortunately, these banks, they were lying, they were providing false information. So now if you get in trouble for that, you go to prison. And this later turns into the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. This is something that still is going to be around today. A lot of these New Deal laws are still going to be used in today's society. So, we have emergency banking. We have the creation of the SEC to make sure truthful information is going to be given out there. The next one, we have something known as the Glass-Steagall Act. And this separates commercial banking from investment banking. Now, really what the big difference is, the commercial banking, that is going to be your local banks. That's going to be the Union State Bank, Security First Bank, the First Security Bank. I know it sounds familiar, but there are ones around town that go by that. But basically, those are going to be the banking that you put your deposits in. They are going to give you interest. They still are going to give out some loans, but they're mostly going to be for mortgages. So it's you know what the interest rate is going to be up front. You know what the penalties are going to be if you break any of the rules. So that's going to be commercial banking. The second one is investment banking, and those are going to be the ones that provide money and provide funding for the stock market. So no longer can you have your local bank do both. And again, the reason that this is going to be the new case, every bank was investing in the stock market. And when the stock market crashes, well, you know, people lose all their money that's in the banks. So they're not going to stop there. They're also going to create the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So again, with these bank runs and why they need to declare a bank holiday, if your bank closes, you lose all your money. Today, that money is insured. The FDIC is still around. You'll probably notice it next time you go to the bank. There's going to be lots of stickers. There's going to be lots of signs making sure that people know that their money is federally insured. But really what this is going to do is just make sure that people, they realize that the banks are safe. And FDR, he does this in his fireside chats. He makes sure to tell people that it's safer now to have money in the bank than to keep it hidden under your mattress. Which, to me, again, seems like a no-brainer. But back then, hey, it was a completely different time. After they create the things with the bank, they're now going to step to industrial recovery. And the industrial recovery, they're going to do a couple of new rules and a couple of new pieces of legislation to help out with this new rule here. So the first one's the NIRA. And this is going to be something for industry. And what it really does, it suspends antitrust laws, which means that it's no longer going to allow or disallow corporations from making pacts. They want big businesses to start to work together, and really there's just going to be a little bit more freedom. And with that, the government is going to kind of assist with determining wages, prices, limiting factories, which kind of goes against our free market economy that we have today. But unfortunately, again, something has to be done. So the NIRA kind of starts off this idea of industrial recovery, and the NRA, the National Recovery Administration, is going to run the programs. Now, the programs, what they have are going to be something known as fair codes, and these are really, they're going to be the fair codes here. And employers, they absolutely hate it. And the reason that they absolutely hate it, the first thing, establishing a minimum wage. If there's a minimum wage, they have to follow it. They have to follow the law. If there isn't a minimum wage, it's, hey, I'll give you a nickel a day. Maybe if I'm feeling, generous, I'll give you 10 cents a day or something like that. But establishing a minimum wage, employers are not going to want to do this. They don't want their factories to be limited. And when they start to do this, they raise prices. They basically say the government is making it so we're pricing even more people out of their market. And the employers, as I said, they don't want to follow these codes, but the government, they really do a good job of like pressuring and pushing this out to people, out to the citizens. And when they do that and they kind of put it out to the citizens, they make sure that everyone who's following these codes, they have a blue eagle in their window. And basically it's just trying to prove that, hey, I'm doing my part, and we need to make sure that we are following the NIRA and not really making sure that it's going to be an issue. But it's seen as a failure. And it's seen as a failure because industrial output actually declines. So pretty much the exact opposite of this, the intended result, is achieved. And the last thing for today, the public works and emergency relief. So we talked about public works projects before, but Harry Hopkins, he is going to be the next person to take this over and take up this new role. Now, public works, again, what it is it's going to be government facilitated jobs, and they're going to be done to make things for the government, such as roads and schools, but it's going to cost the government quite a bit of money. So Harry Hopkins, he meets with President Roosevelt, and President Roosevelt pretty much is going to say that you are now going to be in charge of the Public Works Administration, again, the PWA, to give relief to workers. Now, much like Herbert Hoover when he was in office, he did not just want to hand over cash. He wanted people to work. And Harry Hopkins understands this, and he realizes it. And actually, he as soon as he gets this job, he gets right to work. There's kind of these stories that he took his desk and put it right outside the Oval Office. And that was so as soon as he came up with a plan, he brought it to FDR. FDR would sign it. You know, we see today when presidents sign bills, there's like 30,000 pens that they use. But Harry Hopkins is going to get something done, get it signed, send it out there. Now, what they would do is kind of a little bit different. The government actually would not hire employees. They would hire contractors, and the contractors would be given a total amount saying, you can build this, and we're going to give you $5 million for it, and you cannot discriminate employment. FDR and his administration, they are going to do a lot for segregation and making sure that it is going to be illegal, because if you were a contractor and you were given one of these contracts and you were segregating and you were not allowing certain ethnicities to work at your job site, you were going to be given a lot of trouble, and you were going to be fined heavily. So really these public works projects, again, I can't stress enough just how important it is. And Harry Hopkins, how he is going to spend about $5 million very shortly. And people are kind of upset with him. They say that a lot of what he's doing doesn't make sense in the long run. And Harry Hopkins has a great response to that. He says, people don't eat in the long run. They eat every day.